Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda and welcome to this follow-up video on is this the end of the US dollar as a reserve currency? Now, if you haven't seen the first video on the end of the US dollar, I definitely recommend you go ahead and check that out because I went over a lot of details, a lot of economic data that supports the fact that the US dollar will actually end up stronger as a result of this crisis and will continue to be the reserve currency of the world for many, many years to come. In this training video, which is a follow-up training video, I wanted to address all of the comments from my viewers, from my subscribers from all over the world. I appreciate your input. And this is a pretty intense and a pretty passionate topic for all of us. I'm going to go over three things in this video. One is some basic economic facts that are simply irrefutable. The second is the history of the US dollar and how it became a reserve currency. And there's one individual who has explained this very well, and his name is Ray Dalio. He's the co-chairman of Bridgewater Associates. So he's a hedge fund manager and a philanthropist. He's worth $18 billion with a B, and he knows what he's talking about. And in the third part of this video, I'll share my personal opinion about the future of the US dollar as a reserve currency. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. If you are an existing subscriber, welcome back. If you're not an existing subscriber yet, please consider subscribing to my channel. Please smash that notification button and please click the like button because it really helps out the YouTube algorithm. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to give you some basic fundamental economics here so that we can then establish a case for what I'm about to say. Now, in the previous video, I talked about the importance of having cash and credit to make purchases. I talked about the fact that the more transactions there are in an economy, the more the economy can grow. And a lot of this really works on cash and credit, and that's what the US Federal Reserve is responsible for. The United States Federal Reserve, which is the Fed or the Central Bank of the United States, basically controls the amount of cash and credit in the economy. And the Federal Reserve does that by controlling what's called as a federal funds rate, which is a rate at which one bank lends money to another bank within the United States. Now, this is important for lenders and borrowers because lenders and borrowers have significance in any economy. Now, before I get into this, I did want to share one thing. I want you to be really open in this training video because according to Ray Dalio, and this is something that comes from his phenomenal book, Principles by Ray Dalio, our need to be right is greater and more significant to us than our capacity to recognize the truth. So what Ray Dalio basically says is we have certain inbuilt beliefs about certain things, about the economy, about the state of the US dollar. For example, you might believe that it's unfair. You might believe that capitalism is bad. You might believe that there should never be any credit in the world. You might believe that things should go back to the gold standard. You might believe that it's best to go to a digital super currency or cryptocurrency, or you might believe that China will become much bigger than the United States and the Chinese yuan will crush the dollar. I want you to be open to challenging your beliefs because sometimes we as human beings, when our beliefs get challenged, we feel that it's personal and we feel that it's something that challenges our identity of self. So I urge you to recognize the truth. I urge you to look at objective data, to look at facts, to look at economic data, to look at history, and then make up your mind. And please be open to changing your mind because I am as well, and I've done a lot of research going into this video, and I'll present you with both sides of the equation. So with that being said, let me go ahead and talk about lenders and borrowers. So the way our economy works, for that matter, the way any economy works is a lender usually wants to make more money by lending the money that they have. So let's say you have Main Street Bank. Now the borrower, let's just say Susie's a borrower. The borrower usually wants to borrow money to buy something that they can't normally afford. It could be a house with a mortgage. It could be a car with a car loan. Susie might want to start a business. So again, you have a lender who wants to lend money because they want to make money from the money that they have access to, whether it's digital or physical. And the borrower wants to borrow that money to buy something that they couldn't normally afford. Now, the way this is done is the borrower now agrees to pay back the lender the principal, what they borrowed, along with some interest. Now, the moment Susie borrows money from, let's say, Main Street Bank, it creates what's called as credit. In other words, the bank gives credit to Susie. But when Susie actually gets the money and the money is in her bank account, it creates what's called as debt. Now, debt is something interesting. Debt is a liability for the borrower, in this case Susie, and debt is an asset for the lender, in this case Main Street Bank, because Main Street Bank says, okay, Susie's going to pay us back and we're going to make money on top of this money. So that becomes an asset for Main Street Bank. Now, when Susie successfully pays off Main Street Bank, in other words, when Susie pays off the principal, pays off the interest, that transaction is basically settled, and then the lender goes on and allows someone else to borrow money. So this type of credit, when it's used intelligently, when it's used properly by Susie to live a higher standard of life or to start a business, and it's used by Susie to do things that allow Susie to boost her standard of living, this kind of credit can boost economies, and this essentially is what has boosted the US economy. Now, I've seen a lot of subscribers talk about, hey, credit is bad, credit should never exist, all transactions should be cash. If that were the case, then people would not be able to buy homes, people would not be able to buy cars, people would not be able to start businesses, because ultimately what credit is supposed to do is it's supposed to allow someone the benefit of doing something they were not normally able to do, and the bank or the lender, in this case Main Street Bank, makes money in the process. So it is a system that works, that's allowed the growth of the US economy. And this system, if you can call it capitalism, you can call it whatever you want, this system, when combined with a lot of innovation, a lot of entrepreneurship, which by the way is the fabric of America and many other countries, but we in America are fundamentally drivers for the rest of the world when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurship. This is what leads economies to grow. So again, when you have a strong credit system combined with innovation, you get a big economy. Now, credit, in my opinion, is not very well understood because it gets a bad rap. There's good kinds of credit and there's bad kinds of credit. Now, I want my subscribers to remember one thing. Credit allows the lender and the borrower to both get what they want. It allows a lender to make more money with the money that they have, and it allows a borrower to get something that they cannot normally afford. This in turn increases spending, because when a borrower is able to spend more, it increases spending, it increases transactions, and that's what allows the economy to grow. That's why countries from all over the world want to sell to the American consumer. Now, there can be an argument for the fact that this is going to change and the consumer of the future will be in India, will be in China. I think that the more the world consumes, it doesn't matter whether the consumption just happens in the US or India or China, the more the world consumes, the more the entire US economy grows, the more the entire global economy grows. The bottom line is that spending drives not only the US economy, but the global economy. And right now, the United States economy is the biggest economy in the world. Now, to be fair, Elon Musk has said that he expects the Chinese economy to become bigger than the US economy. In fact, he said it could be twice, maybe 3 times as big as the US economy in the future. And the hedge fund manager Ray Dalio, whom I mentioned earlier, has also said that he expects the Chinese economy to grow bigger than the US economy. In fact, Ray Dalio has specifically said the US is in a relative decline as Chinese power is rapidly rising. These are the words of Ray Dalio, the hedge fund manager at Bridgewater Associates and the philanthropist. Now, if you look at this article on your screen, you'll see that the US GDP, the gross domestic product, was $21.44 trillion on a nominal basis, while China's GDP was around $14 trillion. Now, if you look at another measure, another economic measure known as the purchasing power parity, which some believe is more realistic, it weighs a country's respective purchasing power. China's GDP was $27.31 trillion. So basically, the belief is that the Chinese economy can become bigger than the US economy at some point in time. And this was data from the International Monetary Fund. Like I mentioned before, Elon Musk has said that the Chinese economy is probably going to be at least twice as big as the United States economy, maybe 3 times. So this is his belief. Now Ray Dalio has also written an article on LinkedIn, which is an extremely long, extremely detailed article about how the United States dollar became the dominant currency after World War I and after World War II. So I'll give you a quick highlights from the article, but I'll link to that article below so you can check that out if you want to dig deeper into the history of the US dollar as a reserve currency. Now, this article is called The Changing World Order, the Big Cycles Over the Last 500 Years. Now, Ray Dalio has gone into extensive detail about the rise and the fall of empires over the past 500 years, and he does believe that the Chinese economy is going to surpass the US economy. Now, I want my subscribers to understand that even if the Chinese economy surpasses the world economy, it is my belief that this is not going to impact the dominance of the US dollar as a reserve currency, primarily because China holds a lot of its reserves in US dollars. So it is my belief that the US dollar will remain to be the reserve currency of the world for a long time, and I outlined several reasons for that in the previous training video. The fact that a majority of the forex in the world is traded in US dollars, a majority of oil trading in the world is in US dollars, and the fact that the Chinese yuan as of today accounts for less than 4% of international trade. So I made my case in the previous video, but in this training video, I'm quickly going to go over some of the historic perspectives, and then I'll give you my final opinion at the end of this video. Once again, if you're an existing subscriber, welcome back. If you're not an existing subscriber, please consider clicking subscribe and enabling notifications so you get an instant update as soon as I release a video. And also please click the like button because it really does help the YouTube algorithm. In this article, Ray Dalio talks about the rise of the American empire and the US dollar after both World War I and World War II. Now I'm going to focus on the changes after World War II. As is typical after wars, the winning powers, most importantly the United States, Britain and Russia, at that time after World War II, met to set out the new world order. The US followed a capitalist system. The new monetary system of the US-led countries had the dollar linked to gold at that time and had most other countries' currencies tied to the dollar. This system was followed by over 40 countries. And New York flourished and became the preeminent financial center, and a new debt and capitalist system began. Now that produced what has been a relatively peaceful and prosperous 75-year period, which brings us to today. And if you look at Ray Dalio's beliefs, he believes that all empires rise and fall, and he believes that we're looking at potentially the decline of the US and the development and the emergence of China, because he sees China as the only economic threat to the US. But again, this video is focused on the US dollar as a reserve currency. It's quite feasible that the Chinese economy ends up growing bigger than the US economy, but I believe because of all the reasons I've outlined in the previous training video, because of all of the factors that signify that confirm the deep entrenchment of the dollar, because of the extensive innovation of the United States system of the capitalism in our country, because of all of those things, I believe it's quite feasible that the Chinese economy could overtake the US economy, but the US dollar could still remain dominant. And a lot of that again has to do with the fact that China holds trillions of dollars in US treasuries. So China doesn't want anything to happen to the US dollar. This is my opinion. Now, if you want to dig deeper into this, you can definitely check out Ray Dalio's article. I'll link to that in the description below. Now, what is my opinion about all this? My opinion is that it's fair and it's even reasonable to have your own beliefs, because this is such an intense, such a passionate subject. But if a currency is deeply entrenched in the entire global infrastructure, I believe that it's going to continue to be entrenched, primarily because the US government will do whatever it can to keep the currency entrenched. I believe that, I know a lot of subscribers and a lot of viewers believe in cryptocurrencies. I own maybe a few $1,000s in cryptocurrency because I just wanted to throw some fun money at it and check it out. But I don't invest in cryptocurrency. To be frank, I don't know enough about it to make a reasonable argument for it or against it. I do know that one of my mentors, Warren Buffett, thinks that cryptocurrency is a complete waste of time. That I know for sure, because I am a follower of Warren Buffett. But what I can tell you is this: when you're talking about the US dollar, again, because of the deep entrenchment of the dollar, because of all the American innovation that essentially drives our economy and the rest of the world, I do believe that the United States dollar will continue to be a reserve currency of the world. There are a lot of other factors at play. Now, keep in mind, it's not possible for one guy on YouTube, me, to summarize centuries of conflict, to summarize centuries of currency in one 15-minute video. I'm doing what I can to present you with the most compact view in a short 10 to 15-minute video on YouTube. But when it's all said and done, you can have your own personal opinions about the fact that it's fair or unfair, the fact that it should be tied to gold, should not be tied to gold, the fact that the Chinese economy will grow and therefore the yuan will become dominant. But it's practically not possible, because the entrenchment is something that is not going to be easy to overcome. In fact, I would go so far as to say, if there is an effort, whether it's on the part of the cryptocurrency contingent, if you will, and if there's an effort on the part of other countries to try and remove or to try and deteriorate the dominance of the dollar, then the US government will do what they can to maintain that domination. That's what I feel. I appreciate your comments below. I'm happy to have you sound off in the comments. I appreciate you watching this training video. If you're not a subscriber yet, please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. I'm excited to have you as part of my channel, and please click the like button. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next training video. Bye.